Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. Happy New Year. I know it hasn't started out the way we wanted to, but we're going to get it back on track. Big Jeff, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. New year,
That's it.
we got a
That's
little
it,
lost,
baby.
but we'll get it back.
Yeah, we'll get it back, baby. Before we get into that, New Year, Cookie Society, what do we got on the horizon, brother? You filled us in a little bit in
all
December.
right. So
Talk to me.
there's a new month, so we have a new menu. We have cinnamon roll. That's like
Cinnamon roll.
one of my all-time favorite cookies. Our cinnamon roll cookie. We have our M&M cookie back, frosted oatmeal, and we also have, what else do we have? I know I'm missing one, but what we did was we tallied up all the favorite cookies from this past year, the ones that people would ask about all the time, and we decided to start the new year with them. And we ended up with this menu, so it's a special one.
Oh, so this is like the greatest. This is the Pro Bowl.
This is the all cookie team right here.
Yeah, man.
I'm and a nod to Coach Madden, the all cookie team, like
all
the
cookie team.
Yeah,
yeah, man, that's great. Well, make sure check them out. Cookiesociety.com, ship nationwide. Best cookies out there. You can trust us. We're linemen. We know our cookies. All right, Big Jeff, let's get into it, man. We needed this one. This was a tough one, brother. There was a tough one on a lot of different reasons, right? Why don't I just kick it off to you, brother? What were your thoughts about this game overall, and then we'll get into the specifics in a little bit.
Definitely a tough one because it kind of we kind of lost the number one seed that game.
Yeah,
I don't see Tennessee losing. So if we end up with the same record as them, they have the advantage because they beat us early in the year. So that's the toughest part for us. But the silver lining in it is we can learn from this. There was a lot of good, obviously. I mean, offensively at least, and defensively, you can learn from making in-game adjustments. When you got a guy like Jamar Chase who's just absolutely torching everyone who's lined up against, like he's just dominating the game, and it's tough to do it right in the moment because schematically they've been playing this defense and they've been doing well.
Right.
So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is what's got us here. From a coaching standpoint, you're going to stick with it. But at half, I think Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns, like 150 yards. That's when you go into half and say, hey, all right, this guy's just better.
Yeah.
He's just that type of world beater, and we have to double him. And then offensively, we only had 3 possessions in the second half, which is tough to get a rhythm going. But we got some drop passes. Penalties absolutely killed us. And, self-inflicted, but also the referees, I mean, there were some terrible calls that game.
Yeah, we'll get into
that last drive when they had like 12 plays inside the 5, that was unfair. But, it is what it is. We lost the game. They'll learn from it. I think it'll make them better in the long run.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into there. The one thing sort of big picture-wise that I was curious, I didn't realize it was this close in the AFC. I guess I didn't realize the Titans were right there. I mean, they won, KC won 8 in a row. They only have 4 losses on the year. I'm thinking, okay, you could drop one. But man, when that game got done and it hit me that, oh wow, we just lost the number 1 seed. I just didn't realize it was that close. I mean, I thought KC was just off and away with this, but yeah, it's amazing how fast things change. We're going to get into this week and how important this is now because you can't, I don't know why the NFL, after all those bad calls, right? You think the NFL would throw KC a bone and not flex the game to a point where, right? Because I would have put them after Tennessee. So if Tennessee does lose, now you have a chance to rest your starters. Now they have to go into this last game 100 miles an hour. But yeah, so a lot of talk about there. Defensively, one thing I kept seeing on Twitter that I thought was an interesting point was, we talk about Spags in the defense and the pressure and how that's sort of the staple. But, some people were making a good point. Like the guys up front were getting home. Chris Jones was having a great day. They were getting home with just 4. And it was clear with Chase and everybody that we were having trouble on the back end. So, is that one of those, do you think that's one of those fair criticisms was like, listen, this is an in-game adjust. Like you just let the front 4 rush. They're killing guys and get guys back to help on all these world beaters at receiver.
I think it's totally fair given the situation with that guy just one-on-one dominating. Then also in particular, 3rd and 27, like, come on, like it's 3rd and 27. Like I know you're
Sticks.
probably trying to keep them out of field goal range, but it's 30 and 27. Play the sticks,
Play the sticks.
play deep, double over there, get a safety over the top, and kind of look at the game. Look at the way it was going. Like you said, the guys up front were dominating.
Right.
I mean, I think Chris. I don't know what his pressure rate was, but he seemed like he was in the backfield every
He
single
was a
play.
can't stop him.
And then know the personnel. Cincinnati doesn't have a great O line.
Right.
They
Right.
don't have a great O line, so our defensive line has the advantage. So call the game a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to do that. Some people are stuck in their waves, but like I said, we'll learn from it. I think we'll get in the playoffs, and it'll be one of those things you look back on like, okay, all right, we need to make some adjustments. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
learn from your mistakes, and I think this will be a good teaching moment.
It's amazing how when sort of everything's live, how even for coordinators, the blinders can be on, right? And sometimes it
Yeah.
could just be hard to see the big picture. But when you're looking at it, you're just like, I remember anytime we played Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or one of these guys, especially if they have receiving threats, we would it would say, listen, we're only rushing 4, so you guys got to get there, or we'd have some kind of simulated pressure that would look like we were bringing a blitz, but really it ended up just being a 4-man
Yeah.
rush, and we drop one guy out.
Exactly. You can't show these quarterbacks, especially the good ones, what you're doing.
Right,
I mean, I know Joe Burrow's young, but he's a smart young kid, really good quarterback.
right,
If you're doing the same thing repeatedly, he's going to make you pay for it.
right.
And what he was doing was he was fighting Jamar Chase. He's like, one-on-one, my guy's better than yours, and I'm just going to toss it up and see what happens. So he even said in postgame,
Yeah.
he's down there somewhere. So, I
So
mean, kudos to them. They did a good job of making us pay.
I'm trying to think of a more, because I haven't really watched the Bengals this year. I have trying to think of a more dominant receiver than Chase. I mean,
I mean, that was a very dominant game. I would still go, either Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp.
okay, yeah, yeah,
Those
right,
guys are pretty darn dominant. Cooper's on a historic pace right now. He might
yeah.
break the single season record. But Jamar, man, he has it all. Like he's a
He just
young
looked
dude.
better. He just
Yeah, he
looked
just
like he
looked.
was
Yeah,
better than everybody. It
yeah.
was like,
There's not many guys in the league like that where you look and you say, all right, he's head and shoulders above everyone. He's
yeah,
one of those guys where you go to high school games and all right, that's the Division I guy. It's like that for Hall of Fame type guys, and that's what Jamar looks like. So
yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Definitely could have made some adjustments. Another thing was the penalties. I mean, that last stand there, those penalties were killer. And there was the penalties that weren't called, right? I mean, that obvious offsides. I
mhm.
remember the year, I think it was 2012. So I think it was 2012 where the replacement refs were in the
Oh yeah, that was pretty bad.
Oh, I was jumping off sides like crazy and nobody called it. They would never get called, right? Like I was always taking, because they just, but like I don't know if I've ever seen an offside so obvious than that
Yeah,
left guard on that, one
that
of
was
those goal line
obvious, and
penalties.
we overcame that, and
Yeah.
we made the stop, and they called defensive holding 2 different times, gave them a new set of downs, and it's damn near impossible to get 2 goal line stands consecutively.
Oh man, they had
You
such a
gave
good,
them too many opportunities, and it's unfortunate that there were such bad calls in such a critical point in the game.
right.
Um, and you want to say that ultimately was what decided it, but as players, you know how we roll. We're going to look at it and say, there's things we could have done better not to be in that situation. So
Right. Right.
I'm sure they're kicking themselves and they're not, holding their heads down and complaining about that one drive, but they're looking at what they could do better throughout the
Yeah.
course of the game.
I remember you always get the report. I don't when in New York they used to tell us. I don't remember them doing it in Kansas City, but I remember you would get the report on Monday or Tuesday back from the league,
Hmm.
and they would say, "Hey,
Yes.
sorry, we made a mistake."
Yeah, no,
You
they
know?
definitely got that letter.
Oh, it's like, sorry, like you lost us the game. I mean, and if you look at that stand too, it was a field goal, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they were killing them up
they were
front.
doing great.
Chris Jones on the goal line, he was just in the backfield. I mean, it just looks so textbook, right? I mean, that's the tape you look at when you want to teach goal line stand. Uh yeah, that was just so frustrating. I just was like,
Like I hope we see these guys in the playoffs. It's going to be a
right,
hell of a game, but it's
right,
one of those where it left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth that you just want to get redemption,
right.
immediately
Exactly.
against the same team. So, this will be a good matchup. This will be a great game, to see in Arrowhead.
In
Um,
Arrowhead. That's right. That's right.
and I think we pull that one out.
Yeah.
But it'll be exciting.
Yeah, because what's Cleveland going to go in at, or
Uh,
Cincinnati going to go in
They're
at?
currently number 3.
3.
We'd be the 2.
We'd be 3. Okay, so we
Yeah,
would play them. We'd pay them
and
after the divisional round.
yeah, and we would play them in Arrowhead. That's if it depends on how stuff shakes out.
Yeah.
Hopefully we
Okay.
get the number 1 seed. Hopefully Tennessee loses. But by us playing on Saturday, when we win, Tennessee's going to know what they have to do,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
going to be really tough. When you have to win, and what everything's on the line, it's tough to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's tough. That is tough. And talk about Derrick Henry possibly coming back. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
been decided, but obviously he comes back. That's a game changer. And we'll get into this when we talk about Denver, but those last games of the season, when you're on a team that's not going to the playoffs, the mindset can change, and we'll
yeah,
talk about that. But you brought him up at the beginning. Let's talk about John Madden too. I mean, just obviously a heartbreaking loss for the NFL community, the football community. And the one thing I really loved was all the stories over the past week of how much he meant to people. And they had done an interview with John Madden and Andy Reid. I don't know if you saw this,
hmm
but they were talking to each other, and Andy Reid was talking about how much John Madden meant to him. And this was, I believe, before John Madden passed away, because I think they were talking, if I remember correctly. But Andy Reid started crying. I mean, he started choking up, talking about how much John Madden meant to him. And I don't know if I've ever seen Andy Reid's about
Coach
as
did
stoic.
emotional.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen him that emotional. So clearly a guy that meant a ton to, I mean, everybody in the NFL community. And so that's a hard loss,
Yeah, I mean, Coach Reed talked about it. There were two things that they loved more than anything. That was football and food,
Yeah,
and they
that's it.
connected on that. And he said they were forktarians, which I'm going to start using that. I love that. But I mean, Coach Madden, he meant so much to so many people, even people that didn't personally know him, including myself.
Yeah.
So many chapters in his life. He's a great Hall of Fame coach, broadcaster. But I remember him as the video game guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I remember. I remember that. That's what sparked my imagination with football. Playing the video game, wanting to see myself on that game. Picturing myself doing some of those things that people were doing on the video game, but I ended up an offensive lineman. Um, but man, it was just so much fun. Playing franchise mode. Putting yourself in that place of, as an owner, a GM, as a coach, as a player.
Right.
It was endless possibilities playing that video game, and it
Yeah.
still is to this day. So I think that's been so impactful for football. His
Yeah.
coaching, his broadcasting, and then the video game, and that's his legacy. That's going to live on forever. My son will be playing that. His son, and we got to keep that going.
It's so interesting how many people echoed the same story that you just said about, because I had never played growing up. I didn't play like sports games when I was playing
Okay.
like Mario and things like that. I wasn't into the sports games. But yeah, you looked at how many people had that same sort of reaction about, wow, the the Madden sports really meant a lot, and really um, uh, gave gave people more of the game, right? It gave them so
It
much
did.
that you have people that want to continue to pursue it and just stir up passion for it. I mean, when you have that ability to do that through a video game, you're a special, you're a special person.
And you don't really play it, but it's not only fun; it's educational.
Yeah.
Like, you can really learn football by playing that game. There's
Right.
legit concepts. There's legit, coverages. You really have to play the game, and the developers. I'm sure John Madden had a big part in that, and making it as real as possible while still having fun. But they do an awesome job, and sometimes there's the little things, and we complain about it as gamers. EA sucks and all that, and all these things.
Yeah.
But honestly, they do a really good job, and it's a joy to see how far it's coming. I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's definitely going to be missed. Um, so moving on then to another sort of sad note, but in a different way, was the situation with Antonio Brown. I mean,
Yeah.
this was something that was impossible to miss this past week, and just you want to laugh at it, but at the same time, well, I don't know. Before I get into my reflection on it, I'm curious, what did you take from, and as the situation develops, what are your understandings of what's going on? How did you feel about it, Jeff? Because it was crazy.
Well, I mean, all we're doing is speculating. I know there's been different reports that have come out on both sides of it, but immediately I just felt sad for him.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I really, one was like, what, got him to this point, and how can we help him? I know we've been saying this for a long time, but to melt down and boil over like that on the sideline, before half, and just leave and literally end your career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough to go out that way, at least for me, and for anybody. So, I'm just praying that he gets the help that he needs, and that he finds peace,
Yeah.
because that's definitely a tough situation. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Maybe it was warranted, but at the end of the day, and we've all been in locker room. There's been situations with every one of us where we felt slighted, when we've been angry, whether it be with a coach or a teammate. But ultimately, you got to be professional.
Mm.
You deal
Yeah.
with that, after the game. You have a little meeting off to the side, and you deal with it then. But never on the field. So that was the toughest part to see. But like I said, nobody really knows, and I'm just praying that he finds his peace and that he doesn't regret the decision that he made.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? It's like the sort of visceral reaction is to think, here's friggin' Antonio Brown again. Like the
Yeah,
initial reaction is hard to give him the benefit of the doubt because of all the antics we've seen. But then, when you really look at what he did, this isn't just a guy complaining or arguing. I mean, that was a
yeah,
really radical.
yeah. It was
I've never seen anything like that.
not no, you haven't. It's not normal.
No, you have to question sort of uh, what's going on. And I think Tom Brady, the way he talked about just having empathy for him, I think that is the right approach. Because again, we don't know. There are different storylines coming out. One that I can speak to, they're sort of conflicting the storylines. One storyline is he was hurt and didn't want to go in, but they wanted him to go in. And so he said, "No, I'm not going in." And then they said, "Okay, well then get out." And that's when he threw us up. The other one is they weren't going to, he had certain number
And
of
incentives and all that.
incentives. So
Well, we've seen that before, but that's usually in the last game. He had another game left, and it was
that's
very
what I don't
little. There
understand.
was very little. I mean, he probably, I don't know how many more catches he had to get, but it was
8
it
catches, a
was in reach.
touchdown.
It was
Yeah.
in reach to get it the last game, and with Tom Brady being so tight with him, I'm sure he would have force fed him the ball
Oh
like he did
yeah.
the previous year. So, I mean, like I said, we're just speculating, but it's just unfortunate. And it's just not this moment. It's everything that's led up to this.
Right.
That makes me feel this way, because I don't know him personally, but I know people that know him personally,
Yeah.
either college teammates or professional teammates, that have said that this is a hardworking, great dude,
Yeah.
got it from the bottom,
Right.
great teammate, never complained, to all of a sudden over these last 4 years being erratic, and this behavior is something that they've never seen before.
All
So
right.
that's what makes me question, okay, what's going on with him mentally? And
Exactly.
then that's the scary part. And we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
We
know.
don't
I'm
know.
just praying that he finds peace and balance, and that he figures everything out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all true. And one of those storylines I thought would be interesting to follow, because I had something similar happen to me with my last year with the Jets. So 2012, we finished the season 6-10 in New York. And the last game was in Buffalo. We knew we weren't going to the playoffs. And I had an incentive in my contract that if I had played 60% of the reps that year, I had like a $700,000 bonus. So that last game against Buffalo with 60%, right at 60%.
Yeah.
And they held me out for the first half.
Yeah.
They didn't play me. They played the rookie. And then in the third quarter, they asked me to go in when they knew I couldn't get. And now I'm sitting there in Buffalo, freezing, thinking about, okay, this is my last game. I'm going into a contract year. And they're asking me now, after they haven't let me play, to make sure I didn't get the bonus, to go in and risk getting hurt, and all this stuff. And so I remember sitting there and my coach yelling at me to go in. And I remember looking at him and he's looking at me and I'm like, and I
Serious.
remember having to make that decision and saying, It was the only time I wanted to say, no, I'm not doing it. And so I remember hesitating, and he was like looking at me, and finally I said, all right, I put my helmet on and I went in. And I'm like a rule follower. Like that
No,
was
that's
my
tough.
thing.
That's tough to deal with because that's one of those things where, yeah, it's business, but it's super unethical.
Oh,
It's
it's
something
killer.
that a guy's doing everything he can do in his power to stay healthy and be on the field, and nothing's wrong with him, and you just take it away from him. I saw my rookie season. I won't name any names because I don't know if they want me to mention it, but it was one of my teammates. Had an incentive-based contract, had to play 90% of the snaps, final game of the year, was going to reach it, and we weren't making the playoffs or anything, and the excuse was they wanted to see the young guys play.
Yeah, that was it. That was the excuse.
But this guy was about to get, a $500,000 bonus, and he bust his ass, dealt with the injury the whole season.
Right.
Gutting it out and get to that final game and say, don't worry about it. We're going to play the young guys. I'm like, that's just so unfortunate. And I've seen it a few different times, but that was the one that stuck with me that I remember because I know there's some stuff on the internet where people saying like, teams don't do this. It's not very much money, but at the end of the day, it may not be much money to you, but billionaires are billionaires for a reason. They count every single penny.
That's exactly
so if they have an opportunity to do something like that, they will. Trust me, I've seen it. But I don't know if that's the case with Antonio Brown. That's just a little side story.
Right, little side
listeners can know what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That doesn't really get mentioned.
And that's what I was going to say, because if that was Antonio Brown's situation, now again, Antonio Brown and I are different sort of mindsets, right? Like I was just do what you're told all the time. And I was like, now a little bit to make the story even more salient, I had a contract based on escalators. Mm-hmm. And going into that year, I'd hit all my escalators from the year before. So my contract was high. The Jets drafted a D lineman in the first round. And they said, you have to take a pay cut because he's going to be the starter.
And you end up being a starter.
So they said, take a pay cut. But what they did was they said, the pay cut that you'll take will put as a bonus so that if you do end up starting, you can get it. I beat the guy out in the first week of OTAs to be the starter, play it, and then they take it away from me on the last game.
I've seen that. That's crazy. That's why I really don't like incentive-based deals because it gives the team the leverage because even if you do earn it, it could be a situation where, well, the team isn't making the playoffs, so why would I give this guy a bonus? We failed as a team. Why would I pay this guy?
Exactly.
Which is, I guess, business, but like I said, it's not, in my opinion, it's not good business, especially when you're doing this to good guys.
Exactly. So we don't know the exact situation with AB, but just a little insight into how those things go down and how even for a guy like me, who again is follow all the rules, I hesitated to listen to my coach.
Yeah.
It was probably the only time in my career that I wanted to say, no, I ain't doing it.
I mean, we can touch on the injury thing too, because I mean, I've been in situations where I've played through a lot, but I've seen where guys have been hurt and the report, there was one report saying that, AB didn't feel 100% healthy and that he told the coaches he's not healthy.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of toxic in itself. If a guy tells you, I don't care if he's playing out there, but if a guy tells you he's not feeling 100%, that he can't go back in, you say, if you don't go back in, you're off the team. I mean, come on, man. AB's been playing for how long? He's obviously a hard worker. He knows his body.
Right.
If that's the reason why you released him, I know the ultimate result we're looking at what AB did and the antics and all that, which sucked and wasn't called for.
Right.
But the reports before, everything transpired, the reports that leading up to that was this, and that's not fair either. I mean, come on, the guy has a right to his body. He's professional for a reason.
Right.
But that's like I said, it's all speculation.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you're right. If either one of those stories is true, it's a bad look.
It's a bad look, regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, the injury stuff is killer. And I personally wasn't. I look back at it now, and I could have been better, more sympathetic to my teammates that had injuries. Right?
Yeah.
It's like we played a position where you could fight.
Yeah, we were different though. Yeah, we didn't have to move like those guys, so we could gut through a lot, and we could compensate a little bit differently.
Right.
But these guys are running 100 miles per hour, stopping on a dime, doing all type of different movements. So we saw things differently because we can get away with a lot. I played with high ankle sprains so many different times, bum knees. Right. It was just different for us.
Torn MCL. I was sprained MCLs. Yeah. No, that's the point. That's exactly right. That's the point I want to make. It's like it was easy for me to say, come on, you got your ankle's a little hurt. But when you're one of these skill positions where every little step matters,
Hmm.
with us, there's a million ways you can compensate for being hurt,
Yeah.
So yeah, tough situation there, and curious to see how that gets played out. But yeah, tough all around. To finish, Jeff, Denver. Okay, this is a dangerous one.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely a dangerous game.
let me lay you in, and I know you've been there too, on the mindset of a team going into the last game when they don't have a chance to make a playoffs. Okay, there's two things. First off, you're probably going to get all kinds of crazy stuff, especially with a team that's in your division that doesn't want you to succeed in the playoffs. They're going to come out and want to win the game, right? So you're going to get all kinds of fake stuff, stuff you haven't seen before. I mean, they have nothing to lose. So you cannot say, oh well, this is Denver and the quarterback's hurt. And you got to go into this like it's a playoff game. And the upside to that is this team also has one foot on the bus getting ready to go home. Right? All those guys are thinking as soon as this thing is done, we're out of here. And I remember when I was a rookie, the veterans tell me, listen, you don't want to get hurt in this game
Nope.
because then you got to stay all off season in New York and get treatment. So don't get hurt. This team, Denver, is not going to want to be there if you get up on them fast.
Yes.
They will fold. But you don't want to give them any hope because they would love to finish the season beating Kansas City. So I don't know, Jeff. Do you see it the same way?
No, it's definitely a dangerous game.
Yeah.
The way to kind of nip it in the bud early is to jump out on them.
Right.
Then they start thinking about vacation, Cancun, all those good places.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But if you give them any type of crack or crease, show them any opportunity, they're going to try to take it.
Right.
And it's going to be one of those games where you're going to see a lot of new faces. A team that's eliminated from the playoffs, we talked about it earlier. There's probably some guys that have some incentives. They're going to get benched.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of young guys playing. They're going to be, and it's not just always about the incentives. They're team building.
Right.
They're looking at the future. They have to make decisions in the offseason, so they want to see some of these guys in live action. It's like preseason.
Right.
So you'll see some new faces. There'll be some new wrinkles in the playbook on both sides of the ball, and guys have nothing to lose. The quarterback's going to be slinging it. Right. They're going to be doing just off the wall type stuff. They're going to go for it on fourth down. If the game's tied, they're going to go for two. So you just have to be prepared because there's nothing to lose. It's one of those games where you just have to be prepared.
That's right.
And I think this team is veteran enough to where they've been in these situations and they know what to expect.
Exactly. If there's ever a team that's not going to sleep on this game, it's Kansas City.
Yeah.
Big Jeff, before we get out of here, let's shout out to our sponsor, Tickets for Less. Are you looking to score an unbeatable deal on Chiefs tickets? My friends at Tickets for Less have you covered. Locally owned for more than 17 years, ticketsforless.com has the best selection of Chiefs tickets for every game, all without the outrageous taxes or per-ticket service fees you find on other sites. Plus, you can use our exclusive KCSN promo code from Tickets for Less to save even more. Use code KCSN21 at checkout to save big on any Chiefs order at ticketsforless.com. That's KCSN21. All right, Chiefs Kingdom, that's it for today. Next week, we are back talking about the playoffs, hopefully the number one seed. But regardless, we'll be talking about the playoffs. Big Jeff, thank you as always. Happy New Year, everyone, and we will see you next week. Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs, beat the Donkeys.